Hello, and welcome to Optimized, a marketing performance podcast brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network. I'm Janet Rosseth, your host, and a 25-year veteran of multifamily marketing. This podcast is going to challenge you to reach 1% better somewhere in your daily life, and optimizing is how we'll do that together. Whether it's bringing your personal best to your work and life, building efficient work processes, uncovering new trends, or making sense of meaningful data, we'll dig in together and find that 1%. Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Optimized, a marketing performance podcast brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network. I'm your host, Janet Rosseth, 25-year veteran of multifamily marketing. And we hope in this podcast to just optimize your personal, your professional life, bring you an opportunity and insights to gain 1% better somewhere in your daily life. And I am thrilled today to have guest Lacy Jungman on with us, VP of Growth and Development for Heritage Communities, 20-year veteran in the industry, little focus on senior housing, lots of other side projects going on, and we're going to cover all things marketing, senior living, end of the business. We're going to talk a little bit of Working Genius, so hear both of us probably gush a little bit about how we found it and why we have placed so much value in it. Lacy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Janet, for having me on today. I'm excited to share passion projects, multiple passion projects with your audience, and just kind of, as you mentioned, gush a little bit about Working Genius. I have been in senior living for nearly 20 years. I started by calling bingo many years ago and falling in love with not only the residents, but also the adult children that we helped relieve some of the burden and worry as they place their loved ones in our care. So I'm excited to kind of share some of the transferable skills and customer journey and sales process with multifamily because there's a lot of mirroring that happens between our two industries and a lot of overlap. So most of my time has been spent on the operator side, really overseeing vice president of sales and marketing and now growth and development for heritage communities, where we have 17 communities spread throughout Nebraska, Iowa, Arizona, Texas, and soon to be more. So thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, I'm really thrilled to have you on. I think senior housing kind of gets it doesn't get as much chatter as it should. And I think that so many portfolios, so many clients that I interact with have, a couple of senior housing buildings in their portfolio, and they don't always get the attention or the differentiated experience that they maybe should. So having your perspective on really living, eating, sleeping, breathing senior living for all these years, I think will be really valuable. And hey, I'm of the age where I'm in it right now. We've just gone through all of this with 3 sets of parents experiencing senior housing. And so I'm kind of seeing this progression of what's out there and the options that are available. Take me through a little bit on what is the marketing and sales cycle currently in senior living? How has it changed in the last few years?
I actually might even back up a little bit to describe what senior living really truly defines. So when we talk about senior living, we talk about it encompassing independent living, where maybe somebody can live independently, but they might need a little bit of help with meal preparation. So they might have 2 or 3 meals a day. They might have housekeeping every other week. They have transportation activities happening inside of the community, but it is essentially those who are pretty well independent. Some of them still have jobs. Some of them still drive. Then you would transition over potentially to assisted living if more care was needed. That is still encompassed in senior living, assisted living, where we help with different activities of daily living, like dressing, bathing, medication management, all 3 meals a day, snacks. Usually the number one reason that somebody would move into senior living for assisted living would primarily be for medication management or meal preparation. So those are really a lot of the driving forces that we see for assisted living. But under that scope of senior living also includes memory care. So those who have cognitive decline and maybe are not safe at home, or they might be a wander risk. We worry about them escaping the house, not knowing where they're at, and potentially getting lost. That can be very scary for an older adult and their children as well.
Absolutely.
And so when we talk senior living, those are the 3 big buckets that we talk about. Many people get it confused with what's long-term care or rehab. So those are different settings. Those are different kind of skilled areas. So when we talk today, it's really going to be about those three buckets of independent living, assisted, and memory care.
Right. And
And
I
I
think,
can tell
we
you,
talked a little bit about the 55 plus independent living and the perspective on that. When we are marketing a building as 55 plus, I don't know many 55-year-olds that are looking to move into senior living. And you think about that in terms of, are we marketing to the renter or are we marketing to the children? I feel like in the 55 plus building, and please, you are the expert on this, so correct me if I am way off base on this, but that 55 plus living, we're often competing against buildings around us that are also maintenance free living, but not necessarily senior living. But when it gets to the progression of care, where you can come in independent living, or you perhaps move in a couple who need different ends of the experience. One needs independent living, maybe one needs a little more assistance or memory care, but the progression of being able to stay in one place and carry through in the care is out there too. But take me through, from a marketing perspective, how often are you marketing to the adult children versus marketing directly to the end renter?
question. We actually have two different audiences, and in fact, as we've progressed in time frame here, we're actually almost marketing to three different audiences. So primarily, when we talk about independent living, we are directing our resources and our marketing to that person who's making the decision for themselves. More than likely, they are capable of making their own decisions because they're very independent, have lived independently before, and so we have to market directly to them and entice them. There's no sense of urgency per se that is
Mm-hmm.
caused for a move to independent living. It's typically the nuances of, I'm getting sick of maintenance on the house and I don't want to prepare all of my meals, but I do want a full kitchen and a balcony and, to have a good size apartment. But assisted living is really where we start marketing towards that adult child. That adult child is primarily the adult daughter, because adult daughters are making the decisions. And the third audience that I mentioned is really that grandchild component. We are seeing more and more grandchildren do some of the legwork when it comes to research so that their parents, who is the adult child, can do the in-person interviews or the tours in person,
Right.
but they may not be as savvy as their younger children, right? The grandchildren that might
Right.
be 30 years old, they're helping their parents search for their grandparents. And so now we have to make sure that we are matching what that younger generation is looking for, because it's no longer that adult daughter who's 60 to 75 years old looking for their parent alone. They are incorporating their children into the search. So it's really been a fascinating shift from the marketing strategy
Right.
perspective to see, how do we market to that decision maker that is the resident themselves. Assisted living, usually the resident themselves will have a say in it. They come to tour as well, but that adult daughter is driving part of that decision making process. Memory care is fully driven by their loved one, of course. And then that grandchild component has been so fascinating for us as we evaluate, where are the changes to our customer journey and how do we align our sales efforts to match that
Right.
customer journey? That's been a
Talk
huge
about
shift.
having to have a lot of content ready to reach varying audiences. Where are you starting with? Where are you finding the most valuable placement of your content for those grandchildren?
Yeah, we're still very heavily focused in the Facebook realm.
Okay.
We know that the younger audience is more on TikTok, and we know they're on
Hmm.
Instagram. That adult daughter is primarily our biggest audience, and they are on Facebook. So we do a lot of social with that perspective in mind. But as we've started to evaluate, this is a new aha moment for us that we've started recognizing in collaboration with sales and marketing teams, our boots on the ground in our home office. We're
Hmm.
saying, oh my gosh, there is a lot of grandchildren participating in this. So now we have to redirect our focus. And that's going to be an effort for us in 2025 as well, making sure that we can hit that tertiary audience.
Right. Right. And give me a sense of the sales cycle. How long does it typically take? I know my own experience with my parents. I'm not going to lie, it took us 4 years. Four
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
The
You know what,
final
Janet,
leg
you are,
was probably a year from getting through the door and doing that first tour to finally saying yes when the wait list came up for the third time.
Yeah. You're not alone. It's not an uncommon length of time to see. It can range anywhere from, I have high urgency because I can
Mhm.
no longer have my mom living home alone. The doctor said she needs to go somewhere and she's getting more confused. So the safest option is to move her immediately. That's typically a memory support decision making process, is a much shorter sales cycle because they can't wait.
Right.
Assisted living is needs generated as well, so there's something that's happening that's causing them to look. Nobody looks for assisted living just for fun because they have an open afternoon, so they're going to go look around.
Right.
But there is a driving force to that. Assisted living can take anywhere from, it could be immediate, but I would say on average, maybe about 6 months, 6 to 8 months there. And then we have independent living that can range anywhere from, 6+ months on. And it depends how much research they've done ahead of time. As you well know, in multifamily, more people are doing research online. They've
Yep.
done almost 60% of their research before they've come to us. By the time they've toured with us, they've done all the research. They know everything. They just want to touch what they saw online.
Right. Right. I was really interested too to see for my mom, who is not that tech savvy. She's not on Facebook. She's not on all the social media, but she was really her decision was most driven by any sampling of content that captured other residents' experiences that were living there. She wasn't as
Absolutely.
trusting of the flat out information on the website as she was of any recorded video. And then it was like, he said, and it's like, well, it was produced by the marketing department,
Yeah.
but he does seem happy.
Good job to the marketing team for recognizing that. Now, let me ask you, without getting too personal, Janet, was it independent living that you transitioned her to, or assisted?
She really could have gone into independent living, but her husband really needed assisted living. So we were looking for that progression of care. But by the time they got through the door, they really were both at the point where they needed a bit of assisted living. They were both fall risk.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And it is hard. It's hard when she wanted to own the decision, she wanted to own the search, but there was urgency on behalf of my sister and I because we're in Minnesota. It's snowing. I mean, it was like, we've got to get this done before one more winter in the house for them because it's scary.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it
You don't
is.
want to take, there's a point where you don't want to take the decision out of their control if they're mentally still capable of making it. And
Right.
then the other component of like, I can't stand by anymore and live in fear.
Well, I'll tell you what, that is probably the biggest pushback to us. Our biggest competitor in senior living is not another senior living company, it is the home. It is the
Yes.
home where they're comfortable. They've put up the couches and the chairs just so they can couch surf and walk and feel safe.
Mhm.
And they've created a faux safe environment. And so
Yeah.
when we think about the sales process, what we really have to do is unpack some of the fear. So this is a very emotional journey. When we talk about
Yes.
multifamily being a little bit more transactional than
Mhm.
senior living has to untangle some of the emotions and the lies or the distortions that we've told ourselves that we are safe where we're at, which is why it can take a little bit longer
Right.
of the sales process. So it's really
How
making sure
long do
to.
those conversations typically take? How many potential return visits are there in conversations in order to get to the point of a decision being made, whether it's to be on the wait list ready to go or to move in right now?
Great question. And I will say that it depends on the stage that they're at. So, where we might classify historically in sales, we talk about hot, warm, cold leads.
Mhm.
In senior living, or at least in my company at Heritage, we talk about it based on the stage of change or readiness that they're at. And this was deemed by David Smith, who created prospect centered selling. The whole emphasis is more time with fewer prospects
Mhm.
gives us greater output and results because we are actually tailoring our sales and our focus to what that individual needs, because there's no two situations that are
Right.
identical. So we really sit and learn with them what is the biggest challenge. And most of the time it's your exact situation. We want mom and dad to drive this decision, but I'm scared. I'm freaked out. I don't want them home alone. I have urgency, but
Mhm.
they don't. So our job as subject matter experts in senior living is to help guide and coach that adult daughter to have more meaningful conversations, to prompt them with questions, to help advance them closer to a decision. So we
That
base
is
it.
amazing. Can you please talk more about how you go about that? Do you have tools and resources for anyone out there who's listening right now that either could use these resources on their current senior housing project or in their own personal life? Like how do you produce those materials?
Yeah. So if you go to a heritage community, we can absolutely help you out with that. But I will say it's really understanding the certain circumstances that are surrounding the decision. So I don't know if there's financial concerns. I don't know if there are maybe emotional concerns that might mean guilt. I always told my mom I would never move her to one of those places. So we have to untangle the emotions. We have to untangle the financial perspective of it because senior living is certainly an investment, and differing, funds can
Right.
help you to live in different environments. And so it's really helping to understand who this person is in front of me. And I think the misconception about senior living is that we just want to get on the phone. When you call us, we're just going to talk about your medical diagnoses. But you are more than a medical diagnosis. And so we want to know, who is this person as a whole? How do we help them see that they do need help if they do? And if not, I encourage our sales teams to go refer them to where the appropriate place is. It's okay if we're not the right fit. Our goal is to be the guide and the
Yeah.
resource.
Tell me your sales training. Your sales teams must be the most empathetic folks out there. Are they also social workers?
Well, that's a great question, actually. I will say it. No, not all of them are social workers. In fact, I think I only have one right now that has a history in social
Okay.
work. Most of them are sales professionals who have high empathy and EQ. So to be
Okay.
able to read the feelings when I see a face start shutting down, do I know to stop the conversation and address what I see? I might be off, but here's what I'm sensing from you right now. And so to be able to have the hard conversations while also not just being their friend. I think in sales, a lot of times we want to be
Right.
liked. We want people to accept us and like us. So we buddy up with people. And that then becomes a crutch that we can't advance them to a decision because we become friends. We're in the friend zone with them. So
Right.
we really focus on next steps and making sure we're the educator, because they didn't come to us for a friend. They came for somebody to
And that's
help them.
probably honestly incredibly helpful for the adult children too in the equation that somebody's able to deliver the factual information in the situation as well, because it's sometimes really hard it's hard to do that as the child, as a family member, because you're too close to the situation.
Yep, 100%. We also incorporate, so we train our sales teams to have outside third party data that they can share with the family members so that it's not a subjective, hey, you should move here because most seniors love living here.
Right.
That's your marketing department. That's your sales department talking right there, which is fantastic and probably
Yep.
true in many cases. However, that's not actual hard data. So when we talk about, you can throw statistics out like over 11,000 baby boomers turn 65 every single day. And 70% of those who are 65 or older will need senior living or long term care in their life.
That's
Right? When you
incredible.
can send and talk about those statistics and data, it shifts how the prospect views this actual transaction. That it is more of, okay, yes, you care about me. You're emotionally aware of how I feel. I'm a prospect, but then you also are giving me real life facts. I know that falls are the second leading cause of death in those who are 65 years and older. And so my concern is, mom's had 10 falls already. What's your
Yeah.
backup plan if she has another one? Having those hard conversations allows us to get through the point we need to make a decision.
Gosh, that's so it's overwhelming and beneficial all at the same time. And just talking about the sheer volume of seniors out there. And we've kind of been hearing in the industry for probably 10 years that we have a huge, huge influx of baby boomers that are going to come into needing senior housing, whether it's 55 plus housing or it's progression of care. Where are we at in that bubble right now?
But we still got a long way to go. With 11,000 baby
Do we
boomers
have
turning
enough
65,
inventory?
oh, do we have enough inventory? We still need more inventory, although it's slowed down right now. We're starting to see, we've seen a little bit of a slowdown, but I anticipate that we're going to see new developments here increasing in the near future. But right now, for the past couple of years, we've seen a lot more acquisitions and
Hmm.
transitions of management companies. So whoever, Yeah, I think that's really where we've
Yeah.
seen the changes.
Yeah. I like that you're talking about the industry being more longer conversations with fewer people. And I think that translates well also to traditional multifamily, because I think we're trying to get to that point as well where we are better at the lead generation process of warming and qualifying leads to the point where when we hand them off to sales or to leasing agents on site, we know we've got a really high quality candidate rather than asking our leasing agents to just, I call it follow up fling, because that's all they can keep up with is just flinging follow up. Being more engaged, being more intentional about the conversations and the steps in the process of gaining buy in. Talk to me a little bit about, you mentioned something about your sales teams having very high emotional intelligence, that high IQ. How do you test for that? Is there a certain model that you use to both hire and train and continue to grow those teams?
Yeah, I think that's a hard one, right? It's really hard to quantify EQ and to be able
Hmm.
to put it into an assessment. And so a lot of it is just casual, natural conversation during the interview process. And then I also like to see how they are if they're coachable. So I'll give them a role play situation. They'll give me their perspective of it, and then I will give them guidance, and then we'll role play again. And so I always like to see that because if somebody is coachable, they do have pretty good EQ, right?
Yeah,
They're responding to what you said, they're listening, they're open to feedback. That is important in the sales process as well. So that's part of how I like to interview is do a little bit of role playing. But then also at Heritage, we've adopted an entire and created our own Managers Essentials program. And I have seen those who really struggled with some of that self awareness or EQ just soar in
that's
success after
amazing.
taking this Managers Essentials program. And it is an investment in that person, but it's an investment for them for us as well because they're that much more heightened sensitivity of awareness to those that are around them. So I can't take any credit for that. That is definitely Debbie Petru does our learning and development at Heritage.
That's amazing. And I have to just lead us right into talking about the working genius, because I think you and I both probably have a heavy interest in leadership models and just continuing to learn and grow and self discover, and that self awareness of understanding what makes us good in a certain role or what makes us lean into teams well. And I know you've played roles within the operator, within, if I'm correct, the vendor side, and a little bit of consulting, right?
Yeah.
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 So tell me how you came across the working genius model and why you fell in love with it.
Yes. Oh, now
I
we're getting
know, right? I saved the
really good.
best.
I love it. I have to tell you that growing up, my mom was actually DISC certified and Gallup Strength
Nice.
certified. And so I
You
grew
must have
up
had
with
such
a,
fun conversations at the dinner table.
oh, yes. And she would, anytime a boy would come to pick me up for a date, she would come marching in with her assessments. She would say, I want you to marry your opposite. So I want to make sure that they are, oh my gosh, it
You're
was
like,
quite
Mom,
the
it's just
thing.
the first date, like maybe a
Yeah.
fifth date kind of thing.
But what I loved about that was it was such a gift to me that I didn't recognize. I knew myself so well by the time I
Hmm.
went to college that I had an advantage because I understood why I operated the way that I did. But those models can be a little bit more intricate and complex.
Hmm.
I ran across Working Genius because I've been a big Patrick Lencioni fan for
Me
years
too.
since Five Dysfunctions of a Team. And then a girlfriend of mine had posted on LinkedIn that she had read Six Types of Working Genius. I'm like, what is this book? She raved about it. So I bought it. I listened to it, didn't read it, but I listened to it and I was like, this is it. This is it. This is a game changer. And so it took those models that are personality based and really tied it to business in a way that was meaningful and you could tie it directly to outcomes. And so I felt seen, I felt heard, I felt like this is what could change the face of senior living. Yes, we have to have awareness, and this is a way for us to have awareness of our own.
Right. And the rest of the team too. It's good to have awareness of yourself, but understanding how and who you can lean into at given times within the work or the project that you're working on together is just, I think that's the most incredible part of that whole model. I came across it too, I think, right when he launched it. I mean, it was 2020. It was
Yeah.
COVID, I was, I had a lot of time on my hands, and Patrick Lencioni and the Table Group really leaned into helping consultants gear up for pivoting. And I was right in that stage, which was fantastic. And I too was a big fan of There Is No I in Team and The Motive. Got all his books. But I saw the same thing. I saw like, oh my gosh, I've taken a bajillion personality profiles, but this is the first one who takes the profile and tells you how to work together in stages of work and meetings in order to push things across the finish line, whatever stage you're in. And that felt so much more meaningful to me than just understanding how I operate. It was actually truly liberating when I took it and started working through the facilitator model, because we can talk about what we are, but the quick working genius blurb, if you will, for those of you who don't know it, it's part personality profile and part productivity model. And it breaks everything into 6 types of geniuses: the wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing, enablement, and tenacity. Right. And then it applies it to the work that you do together and helps you understand how you can lean into each other. Do I have that about correct?
You did great.
The 11-second version. I think for you and I, we've both figured out how to, when we're working with teams on large projects, how to bring it to these teams and be able to work together, to be just a little bit more methodical about how we approach it. So tell me how you've applied it within senior living to teams, to clients, to models and work. I'm just fascinated by it.
Yeah, I rolled it out when I came back to Heritage. I've been there for 11 years now. I have had a 2-year hiatus, and when I came back, it was a new team in the sales and marketing department. And so I wanted to roll it out there. I had used it previously with other organizations, and when I came back, it was critical to me to understand how everybody else operated, because they had been working together and I was the new kid on the block. I feel like Working Genius gave me a quick snapshot into how they operate so that I could look for those things and champion them, support them, or maybe just simply understand them better. I always tell this story because I had such a blind spot. Even as a Working Genius facilitator, I had a gal who she worked with us, and she would always, I move fast. I'm an invention galvanizer. So we want to think of ideas and we just want to go. And I remember I'm like, why is she always slowing me down? She always has all these questions. And even as a facilitator, I should have recognized what her genius was. But
She's a
when we
D,
did the
isn't she?
assessment, she had wonder. And so she would always ask all of these questions like, well, I just don't know. What if we tried it from this angle? And I'm like, what if we just went and tried it out? Let's go. What I found was so much value and removed judgment and, frustration. It removed it totally off of the table, because now I looked at that as a gift to our team, because I don't think anybody else on our team has wonder. And that then for me was so important. Just like I talk about slowing down to work with our prospects, we
Right.
too needed to slow down and figure out, what problem are we solving? I just
Yes,
love
and
to
hear each other.
throw
And
out
hear each
ideas.
other.
Yep. She wanted to slow it down and really aim, where are we targeting here? And thank goodness for her, because I am ever so grateful that she does slow down to ask the questions. I love having her in meetings now, because I'm like, what am I not thinking about? And it's been
And I
such a
bet you
gift.
give her more time to do that. I've learned
Yes.
that too, that people with the gift of wonder, with that natural ability to kind of slow down and ask questions, it does feel a little slower because you can almost see the wheel spinning, right? When you recognize that that is their trait and their gift, it is really important to honestly like take a pause for a second, quit moving so fast, because a huge thought is coming and you're not going to want to miss it.
Yes, I
Yeah,
totally agree. And I'm thankful for that, because now we are way more effective. We can get to the outcomes that are intended because we slowed down enough to ask the questions. So
right.
she's a tremendous gift to our team. And then we also celebrate it. So we use the language. And every time I see an email come through where she says, hey, I wonder, what about this? I'm like, look at your wonder coming out. This is awesome. So it
I
makes it
love it.
fun for us as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we find the same thing. And I have learned with consulting, taking on clients or larger projects, or even, we have a year-long retainer that we just launched and we're starting to work together with the internal team. And I took them through Working Genius because it's really important for me to understand the people that I'm working with and the teams that I'm putting these projects in place for. it's really important that I understand their genius and how they're coming to the table with what perspective and at what stage of work. And I can't even tell you how impactful it's been right out the gates, because we've identified who our T's are, those tenacity workers that want to leave the meeting with a to-do list. Like, this is all great. You guys talk, 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 but please just tell me what I need to do and that I've got permission to go do it because I'm ready. And that was truly liberating for me because T is my frustration.
Same.
Yeah, right. And I used to not want to delegate that work to people because I thought that it was everybody's frustration. And so I'd feel the sense of guilt having to hand off all of that administrative, dot the I's, cross the T's, get it across the finish line, all the little details. It turns out there are people out there that crave that. Clearly, I'm not one of them. But
Yep.
when we can align and understand each other's strengths, like, hey, I'm going to do my best work right here in conversation, talking through this stuff. But if you leave work on my plate to finish out, I don't get to it sometimes until Friday afternoon when I have to park myself in my tea corner with my, tea snacks in order to struggle my way through it. But if we come together in the meeting and identify everything you need to get this across the finish line, like, you're going to have it done way before me. And it's been just fantastic. I mean, seeing the groups come together, and I think I told you about the client that we're rolling it from top to bottom of the organization, from executive team through regional manager teams. We've hit the accounting department, the compliance department, and the aha moments within there have been incredible. The number of WTs, people who can sit at 30,000 feet and ask the big questions, but also push it across the finish line, is just incredible seeing them work together.
Oh, yeah. That's amazing. I similarly did the same thing just a couple months back with another organization. They had 35 properties. And so we started at the top. We rolled it out to the executive team. They're like, yes, we love this. Then we went home office. Then we cascaded it all the way through to each of the teams so the leadership teams at every one of their properties. And I did a keynote at their big leadership event that they had. And that was the catalyst for change. And then I did a couple breakout sessions afterwards, and everybody said that was their most powerful, impactful session that they've had in a while. And so that told me, like, this is meaningful for other people. It's aha for me. It's aha for my team. And it's aha for my family too, because this doesn't only apply
100%.
at work. It's definitely applicable at home as well. And for your kids to understand how they operate. It's such a neat, valuable tool for sure.
I want to talk more about that at home piece too. And within your family, especially we're coming into the holiday season. I think there's some conversation that could happen here, but I want to backtrack for a second to the property teams, because I think one of the really valuable things that we've been uncovering is that those small teams that work together on site, like, you don't have to only engage with each other at a position level. When you know your working genius and you know each other's geniuses and frustrations, you can engage at best person for the conversation or for the level of work. And I've seen maintenance supervisors who are incredible discerners or incredible galvanizers, where the property manager maybe isn't the galvanizer that can rally each other around a goal and, really get everybody cooking in the same direction. And yet the maintenance supervisor is the one that can do that. And bringing that spirit into the meeting, I think, is really valuable. And the other thing that I've seen is incredibly valuable is those property managers within a region. So when you get those regional meetings together and you can lean on each other's strengths across that, you're not necessarily located at the same geographic location, but you still know who within your broader team you can lean on when you feel like, hey, I've got this, situation brewing with a resident. I'm about to send out this solution. Can you, friend with the genius of discernment, take a quick peek at it? Tell me what I'm missing. Yeah. It's been incredibly valuable. Talk to me about using Working Genius and applying it within your family, within your social structure. You have a large family. Have you rolled it out with your kids? Your kids are a little younger, but I have had my kids take it.
Yeah, for anybody listening, they do have a Working Genius assessment for students. I think you can take it as early as elementary. I have only done it with one of my kiddos, actually, and my oldest one is about 15 now, and he it was such a light bulb moment for me too,
Yes.
because he does have wander. And as we know, I already have
And you're
like,
moving fast.
yeah. So I'm like, why are we taking our time here? Are we just, let's go fast. And then he'll be like, oh, I wonder about this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is aha moment. It helps me to
Yep.
parent better. And again, I think we're so quick to judge other people, whether it's at work or it's at home, and we don't always reflect on what others might be thinking of us as well. I
Yep.
annoy the heck out of people because I want to keep coming up with ideas. I can't tell you how many vacations and fun ideas I've come up with to my husband. And I'm like, we should do all these things. And he's like, I don't know about this. He's tenacity, right? He's like, just tell me the direction we're going. I'm going to make sure that it gets done. And so it can apply to your home, to your kids,
Yeah.
to your marriage, to even like anybody in your family or friends group, even. It'd be a fun assessment to take for your friends group as well, if you have a group that you meet with
Yes.
regularly. Yeah.
Or hey, like over the holidays, just throw it out at your whole Thanksgiving
Yeah.
table, right?
Yeah. I think they
Yeah,
make great gifts.
I had both of my daughters take it when I was first getting the facilitator certification, and I also had my niece and nephew take it. And all of them were kind of young adults coming through high school, starting to make decisions for college. And my oldest daughter is also a W, like your son. She also is an E, enablement. And it was coming across frequently in school, in high school, that she was resistant or combative with teachers because she was asking questions about the why behind the assignment. And we didn't know that early on. And once I uncovered that, it was like, no wonder, like,
Oh my
you just
gosh.
need to. We had a whole conversation about, there comes a point where when you can't really get what you need out of that situation, you might need to comply to get by, and then the world's going to open up for you to be able to really lean into your geniuses. And she is doing incredibly outside of high school now. And my youngest daughter, like, oh, that was an aha moment too, because we started to find when we travel as a 4-pack, my husband and I and my girls, 2 of us travel one way, the other 2 travel the other way. 2 of us travel like we want to see it all, we want to experience it all. The other 2 are like, just tell me where I need to be and when and what time, and I'm perfectly comfortable sitting here at the pool. That came out in our working genius, why we frustrate each other so much. I'm a lot more spontaneous, fly by the seat of my pants, where there's others in the family who really want to know the details. And I don't always have them until the last second. So I can see why I frustrate the heck out of my family sometimes.
Oh my gosh, it makes sense. And now you have language that you can
Yes,
use to wrap around it.
exactly. The language, precisely. Yes. So I'm glad that we had a chance to talk about this. I think it's so important for our listeners. If you haven't explored it, just go to workinggenius.com and then look up either Lacy or me and let us just, engage with you in a conversation. But for sake of wrapping up time for our listeners and for you and I, Lacy, I always ask a final question of my guests, and that is, how do you personally optimize to bring 1% better into your day, into your week, into your month, whether it's personal or professional? What is it that you do in your life or in your day that helps you grow and become better each day?
Yeah, I think I've thought a lot about that question, and I think I do a lot of things that are not right. I think that I do a lot of things
They're
that maybe
clearly
don't
working
optimize.
for you.
What's that?
I said they're clearly working for you.
Something. But I will say, I think how we manage our time is really critical. And for me, I have a million children, or AKA four children, and they need time and they need attention and they need presence. And so for me, I have had to remove notifications off of my phone. That's been a huge game
Good
changer
one.
for me. I don't want to know when an email comes in. I don't want to
Yep.
know every single, if I'm waiting for an email, I can still check my email to see if it came through. I don't want to be reactive to anything that is controlling me during the hours that I need to be present. And so I've taken notifications off of my phone for almost every app, all of my emails. I don't have, we don't
That's
use
smart.
Slack at Heritage, but we do use Teams. And so I choose when I look at those things. And it's up to me. I'm an adult. I'm responsible to know when I should be checking on those things. I don't need it to be controlling me. because when that was, and I had all those notifications up, I found myself attached to my phone constantly, waiting for the ping, looking at the email notification that came through, and then I was never present. So for me, it's about making sure that I'm present and aware. And then also, I do get up early. I set my alarm for 5:40 every morning, and then I work out at home in my basement. But that allows me time to be able to get what I need out of the day, so I can give to work and then give to home what's needed.
That's excellent. I think that's so important. And just creating little bits of time for yourself too, and space to actually like gear up to be present is important. Good. Well, this has been such a treat having you here. I love this conversation, and I really appreciate all the insight and advice and tips that you shared. Thank you so
Yes.
much for joining us.
Oh my gosh, Janet, thank you so much. And I will say, if anybody is out there listening and interested in Working Genius, don't you think it would be fun for us to co-facilitate a group?
Yes.
Okay.
We are
So
double
the first
galvanizers
person,
here. I'm a discerner galvanizer, and you're an inventor galvanizer.
right? We'll get this train moving.
We can guarantee it will be fun.
It will be.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Lacy. I've loved this conversation. Guests, thank you for joining. Thank you to the Multifamily Media Network for hosting. And please, if you like what you heard, give it a like, a share, maybe leave a comment. Go off and find that 1% in your day. We really appreciate you being here. Thanks again for taking time today for this session. I hope you found a bit of inspiration and wisdom to optimize your performance. If you're a marketing influencer, either on the operations or supplier end, be sure to check out Cadence Marketing Solutions and specifically explore our Run Club online community. No actual running is necessary. We've made it our mission to support marketers and lead you to the voices, resources, and tools that impact your success in this fast-paced industry. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, and subscribe. And visit multifamilymedianetwork.com to learn more about our other industry podcasts, thought pieces, and sponsorship opportunities. Until next time, I hope you find that 1% better.